Hey everybody, welcome to Guilty Words, where we unravel crime one word at a time. I'm Chris, your host. This is part 3 in an 11-part series focusing on Ruby Franke's horrific diary of child abuse. In this episode, she talks about her need to further shame and starve her children as she washes them in dog washes, shaves their heads, and insists on at least 2-day fasts with no food and maybe no water either, which she then gleefully extends into a 3-day fast when they don't show the exact obedience she wants. In addition, we hear more about the terrifying plans to buy land far away from anybody so she and Jodi can continue their work on the children. She insists the children need a place where they can get kicked by a horse and run into a cactus. Let's take a look at her words together.
July 12th, 2023, Wednesday. Took the kids on a 4-hour car ride. We stopped at Gunlock Lake and I shared my love for them. We watched a baby cow get loose and walk into the road in front of us. I made the analogy of the not-so-wise calf to them. I was keeping them safe while they want to run in the road. We drove up to the verge. I bought a volcano pie. I told the kids the pie was to thank Jijo for her home, care, and time. R appeared engaged. E was manipulative. This is the day E anticipates breaking her 2-day fast. This is actually a picture of the Gunlock Lake that they went to. It looks absolutely beautiful. So E was manipulative, that word again. Ruby says this is the day E anticipates breaking her 2-day fast. Ruby's version of fasting is no food at all. It's not just like one meal or light meals or giving up a particular food. It's no food. So E has not eaten in 2 days. And she's anticipating that this is the day that she's going to eat. And here, Ruby is going in and buying this big, yummy volcano pie. But it's not for the kids, it's for Jijo, for her home and care and time. R appeared engaged. Again, he's still trying to do some kind of softness post-exorcism. Or he wants to be engaged because he wants a piece of that pie, because he hasn't eaten in 2 days either. E was manipulative. I'm guessing she probably said something that looks really good, or who knows. It doesn't take much for Ruby to find fault. But that word manipulative, something Ruby can't stand. And she says this is the day E anticipates breaking her 2-day fast. She knows what her daughter is hoping and looking forward to. It's not the day, she says, E will break it. She anticipates it. She's hinted that maybe she'll finally be able to eat. And look, there's this delicious pie I just bought. However, things are never that nice with Ruby. There are a couple of points in the diary where the redacting has the wrong initials for the child that's being talked about, so I'm going to just read it correctly. When we get home to Jijo's, I let E know she has hardened her heart and will do 1 more day of fasting to invite her to humble. E flips out and begins ranting. She refuses to get up. She lies on the floor all day speaking dishonest chants. Because Jijo is on the phone with clients, I don't go in and match her level of aggression. All day E makes rhymes about, my mom starves me and calls it fasting. My mom won't lift 2 fingers and bring me food because all she does is lie on the bed and eat brownies. My mom says she is the most loving mom in the world, blah, blah, blah. If I can't ever go home, then what's the point in being obedient? So 1 more day of fasting to invite her to humble. That invitation, again, that is not an invitation. It's to force her to humble, just like R was supposed to confess everything. There's no specifics about what that looks like or what the child is supposed to do. And it doesn't matter because really there is nothing the child can do. There's nothing E can do to make her mother happy. And nothing R can do either. She says that E speaks dishonest chants. And because Jodi is on the phone, she doesn't go in and match her level of aggression. And I don't know what exactly that means, whether she would start screaming back at her or whether it would be something more physical. But even with all the area in that house, apparently they need to have some semblance of leaving her alone so that Jijo's clients don't hear this screaming in the background. And E keeps this up all day because she thought she was going to get food. She thought she was going to get that pie. She thought all of that. And instead, randomly, she has one more day of starvation. But look at what she accuses her mother of. These are her dishonest chants, when actually they're pretty accurate. My mom starves me and calls it fasting. Yeah, spot on. My mom won't lift 2 fingers to bring me food because all she does is lie on the bed and eat brownies. Well, I don't know if she was really doing that, but I imagine there were brownies around that Ruby would have shown to the kids, like, I have this and you don't. My mom says she's the most loving mom in the world, blah, blah, blah. Well, kids are smart. They're able to separate that loving moms don't starve you. And if I can't ever go home, then what's the point in being obedient? And that shows what a sharp sword that was to put into her daughter. You are never going home again. And R heard it too. They were trapped there forever because she will keep at them until the day they die. Later that same day, I'm going to run away. Jijo helped me intervene after work. Allowing lies to be spewed gives the devil a platform. Articulating lies reinforces possession. The longer the lies are allowed to be spewed, the larger the intervention and physical the intervention needs to be. I cut more off E's head. We doused her with water in the dog wash. E said she wanted to run away. Jodi told E she has no idea what is waiting for her. And then some things are redacted. This is a change of tone for Ruby. Up until now, she's done this kind of almost reporting, like telling what's going on. Here she gets into almost a teaching mode, a self-justification of why what she's doing has to be done. She gets very didactic. Notice she puts a square around the word pattern, and she underlines allowing. This is her rationalization to herself and anyone that reads this. The larger the intervention and the more physical the intervention needs to be, the longer these lies are being spewed. More excuse for more sadistic behavior on her part. And notice the things she considers lies aren't lies. What her daughter was saying in those chants earlier in the day, before Jijo got off work, was true. My mom starves me and calls it fasting. But Ruby is not going to allow the truth to be said in her house because that threatens her control. And she wants an excuse to do more harm to these children because she enjoys it. The idea of the dog wash. We doused her with water in the dog wash, and at first I thought this was like the dirty mop water, more just humiliation, which I'm sure was part of it. But there's also a practical side to this, and that dog washes, as you can see from the picture, are raised up a bit so that the groomer can reach the dog more easily. And so if she was in a dog wash and she had Ruby and Jodi on one side, they would be able to hold her still and control her more as they're shaving her head. Notice the increase in the shaving as well. She did have a pixie cut, and now they're shaving it even closer. Obviously because they know it will upset her. She wants to run away. Jodi, with that fear again, you have no idea what's waiting for you. Well, how much worse can it be than what's waiting for her as she stays there? That's the decision R made eventually. July 13th, 2023. I may have forgotten to write this. On the 11th, I took R's face in my hands and spoke to him. I love you. I told him to send the demon a message for me. I will not give up. I will not leave. I am going nowhere. Get out. R released the demon, and he has been very workable ever since. This morning, the 13th, R broke his fast with brown rice, lentils, black beans, chicken, and water. A hornet kept buzzing around his chicken. I told R to think of the hornet as Satan. Would you become pals with Satan? Would you sell your soul or chicken to a hornet? He will sting you in the end. R trapped the bee with his sun hat. E broke her fast with cheesy potatoes, steak, water, oatmeal, and water. E is full of piss and vinegar. She is mad as a hornet. She doesn't call the shots. It's been about 90 minutes since R ate. I warned him that food would either energize him to truth or defiance. He is defiant again. He pooped his pants and was telling me no. His poop is too watery to be fasting. R admits to stealing water 3 times yesterday. R lies and feels no remorse. E is cheating. She did mention this on the 11th as we looked at it, but it's so important to her she wants to make sure it's in here. Oddly enough, she didn't flip back a few pages to see if she'd mentioned it. It's super important that she cast out this demon, although as we find out, it didn't fully take, in her view. E is full of piss and vinegar. She's mad as a hornet. She doesn't get to call the shots. So she gets to eat, and then she's mad. She must have asked for something else that Ruby didn't feel was appropriate. And then 90 minutes after R eats for the first time in 3 days, he has diarrhea. And she realizes it's too watery to be fasting. So, first of all, she doesn't think of some of the health things about why he might be having diarrhea. She instantly goes to, he must have had water, which tells us that she was not giving them water during these 3 days of fasting. It wasn't just no food, it was no water. And he managed to sneak some water 3 times, and he doesn't feel any remorse. E is cheating, sounds like E was manipulating, and she doesn't go into details about what that means. But R is defiant again, as if not being able to control his bodily functions is a form of defiance. Although to her, stealing that water, which is one of her triggers, shows that the demon is back, or he lied and it never really left. Either way, R is in a lot of trouble, and apparently E is too, as usual. These selfish children who only desire to take, lie, and attack have zero understanding of God's love for them. They don't know Jijo is selling her home, this priceless Snow Canyon gem, so she can purchase land where these two can work. Jijo has been looking for property with Suarez cactus and is feeling more imminent the need to get these kids to open land. She is willing to consider less than ideal property for them. This is a spiritual matter. I can't in good faith leave you with these 2 gremlins. I won't do that. These are God's children. Suarez don't matter when souls are on the line. Where these 2 can work. There's this idea that if they have hard physical labor, like lifting boxes or whatever it might be, then that will help them repent, because the devil can't get a foothold if you're working physically very hard. And I apologize for my pronunciation of the type of cactus, but apparently Jodi wanted land that had this particular cactus on it, but as she says, that doesn't matter when there are these 2 gremlins and souls are on the line. The ego of this idea of we are fighting Satan and we are important enough to save souls, that the sheer self-absorption and arrogance of it is as mind-boggling as anything else going on here. 1 hour later, we move quickly. Jodi and Jay are going on a road trip to look at property in Arizona. Ruby has some cash in the bank. If the property is right, we can move on financing immediately. We decided the escalation of the kids is not manageable here and now. R is now sitting angry, defiant. E is lying on the floor. We will bring them in. R I will clean up outside in the desert as he has pooped himself. He will then stand or sit on the patio, shaded. Now I'll see him from the kitchen. E I will bring into the cool house and she can sit in the pantry. They will think they won. They will think they got what they wanted. They will relax. Then pop! We will drop them like hot potatoes out in the desert, their new home. You are going to get exactly what you asked for. What a horrific tone of, talk about manipulation and planning, and this deep enjoyment of this scheme they have to make the children suffer by thinking that maybe they'll actually get shade and cool and food, and suddenly they're going to be dropped in the hot desert. Oppositional force is required for growth, development, and maturity. E and R have never experienced oppositional force. They are very weak-minded. Oppositional force. And then we decided the escalation of the kids is not manageable here and now. What more escalation could there be than the starvation and the holding underwater and the kicking with boots on and everything else that was happening? And there's even more to come. But they need to get them away because there are still too many people around. And like many of you, I think if they had succeeded, those kids would be dead. Pop! Just the glee of that, like, yay, then we get them. These are children. Oppositional force is required. Required. We have to do this. That sick justification again. Pattern. Sending evil away in a long-time possessed person is not a one-and-done deal, usually. These wicked spirits in E&R have been pals long before this life. How E&R got to come and get a body can only be explained in me advocating to be their mother. This is not a conceited statement. God knew I would take my responsibility to mother seriously. Jodi volunteered to help. These two souls are very weak of mind. They are fools. Truly. E said she would choose the devil over God. What arrogant spew. God is patient not to split her with a bolt of lightning. You do not tempt a God who controls your very breath. The disdain and hatred they have for God is beyond my ability to describe. My spirit is offended. I shudder to think I would never have seen this had I not pushed on them. Holding boundaries will show you how much possession a soul has. The more boundaries, the more the soul will reveal itself. Trial will reveal a soul because of the inherent limits built into a tribulation. She's back into her didactic, arrogant self-justification of torturing her children. So, I took my responsibility as a mother seriously. She's basically saying that this is a theory where they were in other lives with these demons, and so they've come again, and that's why it's so hard to get rid of them out of the children. But she chose to be their mother to do this, and God allowed it because she takes her responsibility so seriously. And notice Jodi volunteered to help. There's nothing in there about Jodi explained this to me that I needed to do this, and so I listened to Jodi. This is very much, I took my responsibility seriously, and then Jodi came along and helped. No throwing Jodi under the bus here. Ruby is very proud of what she's figuring out and how to torture her children. She has it like a little school book. This is the pattern. Down here in a square box is the principle. These are notes of very important things. They are fools. This doesn't sound like she's talking about demons here. This sounds like it's directed right at her children. They are fools. Not something an adult would normally say about children. It has a judgmental, superior tone to it. When you call someone a fool, the implication is that you're a lot smarter than they are. And I would never have seen this had I not pushed on them. What is she seeing? Defiance, yes, because they're trying to survive. Had I not pushed on them, not had Jodi not showed me how to push on them, had I not pushed on them. Back to sending evil away. Articulating truth drives evil away. This is a powerful intervention for the possessed. Even if you can start by agreeing to something truthful, you are a daughter of God, true? Yes, ma'am. Following up on articulating a desire for evil to leave with a demonstration of obedience is powerful. Demonstrating a willingness to follow truth is a pattern the Savior used in his interactions. Go sell all you have and follow me. Go and sin no more. Go wash 7 times. Go and tell no one. Go and tell the city. Go and preach my gospel. Go feed my sheep. If you can engage a weak-minded soul in a physical activity of obedience, you can begin to break the bond Satan made of the weak. Physically stop the acting out behaviors and begin physically doing good. Farm work, lifting boxes, exerting energy, exercises, jump rope, milking cows, weeding a garden, digging trenches. Satan cannot be where there is good. Begin doing or sweating for good. Heavy physical intensity. Capture your attention. Again, this is going back to her teaching moment. Instead of talking about how offended she is by her children's behavior, she is justifying through this intellectual sounding argument why she needs to force her children into physical labor. She mentions Jesus supposedly doing the same thing, a pattern that the Savior used for demonstrating a willingness to follow truth. But there's nothing in here about go and wall sit for hours on end. Go and stand in the sun, in the desert, in bare feet, when it's 110 degrees with no water for hours on end. There is nothing about go and do everything I say to the exact measure, and if you move an inch, I will pounce on you. There's nothing like that. That's not what Jesus is asking people to do. But somehow, Ruby has skewed it into that under this idea of hard work makes good people. Physically stop the acting out behaviors and begin physically doing good. Begin doing and sweating for good. What she does is more than just weeding a garden, though. It crossed over into absolute torture. But to her, it was just even more good, if that makes any sense. The problem for ENR is that the hard labor is all something, I can't read it. Lifting a box for the sake of lifting does not have meaning or do good. We need property where a ranch can be built. Good can be done. Outcomes of prosperous choices can be seen, experienced, and felt. And the kids need a good kick from a horse or a cactus to run into. They need natural outcomes. I asked R what he was thinking about since he was sitting in the shade and had what he wanted. R answered, what I want. And the kids need a good kick from a horse and a cactus to run into. How does that come along with doing hard work for good? Can you imagine what would have happened if they'd actually gotten out to that land? She calls a kick from a horse and being forced to run into a cactus natural outcomes. No, they're not. Me, what do you want? R, more different foods and a soft bed. Me, why don't you ask Satan? Do you think Satan will give you those things? R, no. Me, why not? R, because he doesn't have the power. Me, why would you serve a God who has no power to give you your desires? Dumb. R, silent. What can he say? He's not serving Satan. He's not trying to. And yet, he's always accused of it, and there's no answer. E had another episode with demons. She gives herself to them. She agreed to stop being deceptive with her facial expressions and crying and whining. Whining is the devil's voice. Whining is always a demon. E's hurt facial expressions blame me for her misery. It is E at the center of her misery. Her face is deceptive. After E did stairs, she sat on the park bench looking at the mountain views. She was told to sit and be still and eat her dinner, carrots, hummus, grilled cheese, and water. E, in a power play, brought her empty plate to the door and then removed her sun hat. Whining is the devil's voice. Whining is always a demon. So whining that you're hungry after 3 days of no food or water, whining you want something to drink, that's the devil? I don't think so. How is bringing her empty plate to the door and removing her sun hat a power play? Ruby doesn't go into the details of that, but we see the consequence the next morning. Part of Ruby Franke's charging statement. From approximately May 22, 2023 until August 30, 2023, in Washington County, Utah, the defendant Ruby Franke intentionally or knowingly inflicted and allowed another adult to inflict serious physical injuries upon her children that were ages 9, EF, and 11 to 12, RF, as more fully described below. Count 1. The defendant's actions involved the physical torture of RF. Initially, RF was forced to do physical tasks for hours and days at a time. These included wall sits, carrying boxes full of books up and down stairs, and working outside. Eventually, RF was forced to do outside labor without shoes and in the summer heat. He was forced to stand in the direct sunlight for several days. He was forced to remain outside at all hours of the day and night for extended periods of time. These actions resulted in repeated and serious sunburns with blistered and sloughing skin. RF was denied adequate water for several of the days he was required to remain in the summer heat, and he was punished when he secretly consumed water. He was denied sufficient food, and when given food he was given very plain meals, e.g. rice and chicken, while others in the house ate regular and more flavorful meals.
In our next segment, part 4, called The Weight of Obedience, Ruby escalates her behavior by looking for the most minuscule reasons to punish the children. As always, I welcome your comments below about this segment or any of the segments or anything to do with Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt in general. I always enjoy the dialogue that starts. And until I see you in the next video, please use your words wisely and well. Take care.